Welcome to Morning Vibes with Dr. Jerry the First, episode 144. This Sunday, the 4th day of February 2018. My names are Dr. Jerry the First Oguzie, and today, in continuation of our discussion on the habits to drop like a piece of hot charcoal, if you have to choose yourself first in this 2018, I am looking at stopping negative self-talk. Yesterday, we took a critical look at overcoming self-doubt and discussed that in details and how it can be overcome in order to move forward. Today, we are taking a look at stopping negative self-talk. Most people don't realize it, but as we go about our daily lives, we are constantly thinking about and interpreting the situations we find ourselves in. It's as though we have an internal voice inside our head that determines how we perceive every situation. Psychologists call this inner voice self-talk, and it includes our conscious thoughts, as well as our unconscious assumptions or beliefs. Much of our self-talk is reasonable. I'll better do some preparation for that exam, or I'm really looking forward to that match. However, some of our self-talk is negative, unrealistic, or self-defeating. I'm going to fail for sure, or I didn't play well, I'm hopeless. Self-talk is often skewed towards the negative, and sometimes it's just plain wrong. If you're experiencing depression, it is particularly likely that you interpret things negatively. That's why it's useful to keep an eye on the things you tell yourself and challenge some of the negative aspects of your thinking. You can test, challenge, and change your self-talk. You can change some of the negative aspects of your thinking by challenging the irrational parts and replacing them with more reasonable thoughts. With practice, you can learn to notice your own negative self-talk as it happens and consciously choose to think about the situation in a more realistic and helpful way. Challenging the self-talk. Disputing your self-talk means challenging the negative or unhelpful aspects. Doing this enables you to feel better and to respond to situations in a more helpful way. Learning to dispute negative thoughts might take time and practice, but it is worth the effort. Once you start looking at it, you'll probably be surprised by how much of your thinking is inaccurate, exaggerated, or focused on the negatives of the situation. Whenever you find yourself feeling depressed, angry, anxious, or upset, use this as a signal to stop and become aware of your thoughts. Use your feelings as your cue to reflect on your thinking. A good way to test the accuracy of your perceptions might be to ask yourself some challenging questions. These questions will help you to check out your self-talk to see whether your current view is reasonable. This will also help you discover other ways of thinking about your situation. There are 4 main types of challenging questions to ask yourself. 1. Reality testing. What is my evidence for and against my thinking? Are my thoughts factual, or are they just my interpretations? Am I jumping to negative conclusions? How can I find out if my thoughts are actually true? 2. Look for alternative explanations. Are there any other ways that I could look at this situation? What else could this mean? If I were being positive, how would I perceive this situation? 3. Putting it in perspective. Is this situation as bad as I'm making it out to be? What is the worst thing that could happen? How likely is it? What is the best thing that could happen? How likely is it? What is the most likely to happen? Is there anything good about this situation? Will this matter in 5 years' time? When you feel anxious, depressed, or stressed out, your self-talk is likely to become extreme. You'll be more likely to expect the worst and focus on the most negative aspects of a situation. So it's helpful to try and put things into their proper perspective. The fourth question that you need to ask yourself is using goal-directed thinking. Is thinking this will help me to feel good or to achieve my goals? What can I do that will help me solve the problem? Is there something I can learn from this situation to help me do better next time? Recognizing that your current way of thinking might be self-defeating, example, it doesn't make you feel good or help you to get what you want, that can sometimes motivate you to look at things from a different perspective. You can conquer your negative self-talk today by challenging yourself with these questions every time you catch yourself thinking something negative to yourself. Now, concerning negative self-talk, these are my list of top 10 things that you don't need to say to yourself. I'm not worth it. This is a direct assault on your self-esteem, and it is simply not true. Telling yourself you're not worth it only perpetuates negative beliefs you may have picked up early in life. B. There's no use. Telling yourself there's no use steals your personal power and leaves you with no motivation. C. I can't do it. Again, this is very disempowering. There are times when you truly cannot do something. However, most of the time, this one is delivered as more of a self-attack than a statement of fact. D. I will never follow through. This is a setup for failure before you even really get started. We all know that success comes one day at a time. Telling yourself you will fail before you get started is shooting yourself in the foot. E. People won't like me. Again, this is another setup for rejection. When you enter a new situation, telling yourself that people won't like you, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. F. Others are better than I am. We all tend to compare ourselves to others. Sometimes we exercise prejudice against ourselves, though. Telling yourself that others are better than you is an assault on your self-worth. I am not enough. A huge one for people who feel inadequate to meet the demands of life. A sense of personal inadequacy is very discouraging. Don't reinforce it. I must be perfect. The way to guarantee failure is to criticize yourself whenever you're imperfect, which is all the time. We are perfectly imperfect. My opinion doesn't matter. This is more low esteem in this statement. To say this one to yourself, you must consider yourself very unworthy. I will never be any different. We say this as if we are written failure into stone. It's a hopeless thought. Just say no to this one. So, what are you to do about negative self-talk? Follow these steps to get a better handle on your negative self-talk. Catch yourself. So often we run on autopilot and allow our minds to ruin our day. So start each day with the conscious goal to catch yourself saying negative things. Call a spade a spade. Next, label what you just said. Recognize it as negative self-talk. Use the following formula. I just had a thought. Repeat the negative thought here. If you caught yourself saying, I'm not worth it, for example, then you will just pause and say, I just had a thought, I am not worth it. Using this formula securely labels the thought as a mere thought. If you do not realize that what you said was just a thought, you run a high risk of taking it personally and allowing it to ruin your day. So take a deep breath and just move on. In order to stop the incredible damage of negative self-talk on yourself, you need to do the following. 1. See yourself more accurately. Parts of your brain are hardwired to scan for problems, meaning they will latch onto your weakness and magnify them, says Amy Johnson, PhD, psychologist, life coach, and author of the Little Book of Big Change. The thing that your mind is fixating on and seeing it as imperfection, a horrible flaw, that's pretty biased, she says. Once you recognize that your mind isn't telling the truth, you can let criticisms become background noise instead of a disruptive roar. 2. Focus on your good traits. It's hard to forget pain, but it's easy to forget what makes us happy, says Irina Popper Ewing, founder of the NYC Life Coach. To remind yourself of your best qualities, she recommends looking in the mirror and finding 3 things you like about yourself every day for 3 months. At the beginning, you might not believe it. You're just saying it because you gave yourself the assignment, she says. At the end of 3 months, you will actually embrace them because of the repetition that you keep telling yourself. 3. Know what to blame on your mood. Just as you should give yourself time to cool off before sending an angry email, learn to ignore self-loathing when you are feeling generally down. Imperfections and flaws tend to change day to day and by our mood, Johnson says. When we're in a bad mood, we think we have all kinds of problems. When we're in a good mood, all of a sudden those problems don't seem so big again. Once you've had a chance to cheer up, you will probably find that the feelings you saw before aren't worth dwelling on. 4. Ask yourself why you care. Do you want toned arms for your own benefit or because you're worried about what other people think about your appearance? Popper Ewing says, understanding your real values and dreams will help you be more content with your shortcomings. And so, living the life others expect of you isn't what you should be doing. I tell people to find what they want, not based on what society says, not based on what their circle of friends has, she says. That will be different standards. If your priority is spending time with your family, don't sweat the fact that you can't spend hours at the gym. 5. Understand your inner critic has good intentions. Never criticize the voices inside you that criticize you, says Melissa Sanford, founder of 1,000 Parts Life Coach. 2 wrongs don't make a right. So, instead of resenting your negative thoughts, appreciate their helpful purpose, she says. After all, beating yourself up over eating too many cookies is your mind. It's your mind's way of trying to get your body healthier. Understand why you are having those thoughts, but don't believe them when they say you are inadequate. 6. Learn to accept, not love, your flaws. If you try persuading yourself you love your imperfections, your inner lie detector will go crazy. To convince yourself is a good thing can be sort of annoying, Johnson says. You know you're giving yourself a pep talk and it falls short. So instead of forcing a positive spin on your weakness, give yourself perspective and remind yourself they seem worse to you than they really are. 7. Recognize what you're beating yourself up over. Then decide what steps you will make to better yourself. Popper Ewing says, the key is to pick steps you're willing to take, not ones you feel obligated to take. If you say what you're willing to do, then you're already a step forward and will feel much better because you see progress, she says. Then build a long-term plan to work at it, checking your progress every few months to remind yourself how far you've come. 8. Recognize your achievements. Maybe your presentation at work didn't go as well as you would hoped, but that single shortcoming doesn't define you. Remind yourself of everything else you've accomplished, and that disappointment will seem like such a big deal anymore. There's not one person on earth who didn't accomplish something, Popper Ewing says. It could be saying hi to someone, or smiling at someone, or helping a friend in need, or even listening. Reminding yourself often of these little wins can change your mindset and help you embrace the right and bright side of your future and your failure, she says. 9. Address your vulnerables. Criticizing your flaws is usually self-defense. Painful past experiences leave you vulnerable, with your mind trying to prevent that shame, anger, or lack of control again by criticizing you when you make those same mistakes again. But often, the flaw really isn't as big of a deal as your mind makes it out to be. Sanford says, figuring out why you started to hate that weaknesses can put it back in perspective. Go to your vulnerable parts and witness the pain they've been carrying, and then they can let go of it and not be as vulnerable as in the past, Sanford says. Once you've accepted your past, your mind won't have to work so hard to protect you from letting it happen again, and you will react less strongly. So I am hoping that if you have chosen yourself first in this 2018 and you have been a victim of this negative self-talk, having listened to me today, you are going to drop it like a hot piece of charcoal on the palm of your hand. And so while you do that, until I come your way again, this is Morning Vibes with Dr. Jerry the First. This program is powered by Top Media and Communication Nigeria. All rights reserved. Thank you for listening to this broadcast this morning. If it has resonated with you, kindly subscribe to our channel and also give us a thumbs up to like this podcast. You can also share this with your friends so that they can also be enlightened. If you want to read the text, the full text, kindly go to our blog and read it. We'll also welcome your comments, your suggestions, and your opinions on how we can make it better. We're also on Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. Please find the links to our blog and our Facebook page in the description box below.